Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Students, let us continue with our chapter Control and Coordination. In this section, we will study about the coordination in plants. In the last section, we dealt in detail about control and coordination in animals, specifically in humans. Now, unlike animals, plants do not have nerves or muscles. So, how do they regulate or control their movement and their activities? They have chemical coordination, right? So, they do control and coordination with the help of certain chemical substances which are known as phytohormones or the plant hormones. So, the plants, because of these hormones, they show certain kinds of movement which are called curvature movement. Plants do not have locomotion, they cannot move from one place to another, unlike animals. So, but sometimes they appear to be moving. For example, have you noticed the sunflower always facing the sun? It moves to face the sun. So, it appears to be moving. Similarly, another example, although a different kind, the money plant grows around the moss stick. So, it appears to be moving. So, such kind of movements are known as curvature movements in plants. There are broadly two categories of curvature movements, the movements which are independent of growth and the movements which are dependent on growth. As I just told you the example of sunflower. Now, the sunflower is facing the sun. This kind of movement is independent of growth. There is no growth in the plant, only the shape changes. While the other kind, the example of money plant, the plant is growing as it is moving, it is growing. So, such kind of movements are dependent on growth. Let us compare these two types of movements. The turgor movements. These turgor movements are immediate response to the stimuli. There are some plants which are sensitive to touch or to the shock. For example, the touch me not plant. The scientific name is Mimosa pudica. As you touch the leaves will immediately fold in that region. So, that kind of movement is a turgor movement. There is no change in size, only the shape changes. The leaves just fold, so the shape changes. Such kinds of movement are temporary or reversible. If you touch a touch me not plant or some leaves, they'll fold, then you leave it for some time. You'll notice that they come back to the original shape after some time. So, these changes are temporary and are reversible. These changes are caused due to the amount of water present in the cells in that region. So, the swelling or the shrinking of the cell causes these movements. On the other hand, there are growth movements. These are due to differential or unequal growth of different parts of the plant. So, they appear to be moving although they are growing actually. So, in this case the size changes. In turgor movement only the shape changes, but in growth movement the size of the plant changes. Okay. For example, in a climber what happens? The climber, there are tendrils. The tendrils revolve and twist around a support. So, they grow up. It helps the plant to climb upward. So, this kind of movements are growth movements. These changes are permanent and irreversible. In case of a tendril, if it is growing around a support, even if you remove that support, the twisted part of the tendril is irreversible. It remains like this forever. Alright. So, these changes are permanent and irreversible. These changes or these movements, they are due to unequal distribution of growth hormones. There are certain chemicals or hormones present in the plants which promote these. So, if the portion of the plant which has more hormones will grow faster, while the portion of the plant which has less of these hormones will grow slower. So, these are hormone related growths. Alright, let us study about these hormones. These plant hormones are called phytohormones. Now, these are what are phytohormones? These are the chemical substances which regulate the growth, development, tissue differentiation and responds to external stimuli, right? So these hormones are released by certain specific cells. Then they reach the target cells by diffusion from one cell to another, right? There are no vessels or nerves to carry out these hormones. Now, there are basically 5 categories of hormones: the auxins, which are growth promoters, gibberellins, cytokinins, these are also growth promoters. On the other hand, abscisic acid and ethylene, these are growth inhibitors. The auxins first, which are growth promoters. They are released by the tips of the roots and the shoots. Alright, so you can do this activity at home. Take a small potted plant, keep it near a window from where the sunlight can enter. After a few days, you notice that there is bending of branches and the leaves towards the window. Alright, so they bend towards the window to receive the sunlight. In this case, the stimulus is the light. Now, how does this bending occurs? The auxins, alright, so whenever there is a stimulus of light, the auxins accumulate in the region which is the shady part of the shoot, the darker side. So more of auxins here will promote the growth of this part of the shoot, while the other part, which is facing the light, will grow slower. So what will happen? It will lead to curvature, because this part has grown more than the other part. So this will lead to the bending, alright, the curvature. The curvature movement occurs because of more of growth hormones on one side than on the other side. I hope that is clear to you. Now, another type of phytohormones are gibberellins. These are also growth promoters. They are responsible for elongation of the shoot. The height of the plant increases because of these hormones. Next, the cytokinins. These are also growth promoters. They promote the cell division, especially in fruits and seeds. The fruits and the seeds, they grow in size because of cytokinins. Next, the abscisic acid, it is a growth inhibitor. So it promotes the closing of the stomata, the wilting and falling of leaves, detachment of flowers and fruits, depending upon the requirement of the plant. For example, if during night time, when the plants do not want to lose extra water, the stomata close down, right? The leaves in which all the waste products is accumulated, those leaves fall down. So such type of movement, such type of activities are promoted by abscisic acid. Similarly, when a fruit is fully grown, mature, it detaches from the branches because of abscisic acid. The last one, that is ethylene, it is also a growth inhibitor. It is a gaseous hormone and it inhibits the longitudinal growth. Once a plant attains a certain height, it inhibits the longitudinal growth so that the branches can grow and more profuse plant can produce, right? Next topic is the tropism or the tropic movement. Now, the tropic movement is a kind of growth movement, alright. This phenomena is known as tropism. It is unilateral directional growth movement in response to some external stimuli. Now, if there is some external stimuli and the plant part starts growing towards that stimuli, this is known as positive tropism. While if the plant part starts growing away from the stimuli, that is known as negative tropism. Let us study about some kind of tropism. If the stimulus is light, the phenomena is known as phototropism. Alright, do this activity. Take a small potted plant, keep it near a window, the window from which the sunlight can enter. What you will notice after some time? The bending of the branches and the leaves towards the sun, towards the window. So the shoot part is showing positive tropism. They are growing towards the stimuli. While the roots are growing away from the stimuli, so roots show negative phototropism, while the shoots show positive phototropism. The second kind of phototropism is geotropism, in which the stimulus is gravity. Okay, so do this activity at home. take a small potted plant and keep it horizontal. Instead of vertical, keep it horizontal. After some days, you'll notice the shoots growing upward and the roots growing downward. So in this case, what is happening? The shoots are showing negative tropism. They are growing against gravity, while the roots are showing positive geotropism, that is, they are growing towards the earth, towards the gravity, right? The next type, if the stimulus is touch, the phenomena is known as thigmotropism. As I just told you, in case of a climber, if the tendril senses some touch, it starts bending and growing around the support, around that support. So this helps the climber to climb up, the plant to grow upward. So this kind of movement is known as thigmotropism. It is specially seen in case of tendrils. Next, if the stimulus is water, that phenomenon is known as hydrotropism. Consider there is some water body nearby. So the plants which are growing near the water body, the roots starts growing towards the water. So roots show positive hydrotropism. And another type is the chemical tropism, which is known as chemotropism. As you know, in pollination, the pollen grains reach the stigma. Then the pollen tubes start growing towards the ovary or the ovule. That movement of the pollen tube is known as positive chemotropism. So that's all about the control and coordination in plant.